So thank you for having me. Just to refresh your memory, my name is Janet Garris. I'm a partner with Del Bello, Donnell, Weingarten, Wise & Whitaker, here this evening on behalf of that small neighborhood company, Regeneron. Joining me from Regeneron, Ted Jessen in the audience, my associate Annie Klein, Steve Spina, our project engineers from JMC, Joe Procunier, our project architect. So Steve has a very nice little presentation for you. Just to orient you, what we are proposing on the property is the construction of a logistics building for the R&D campus. It is intended to be located, and Steve will just pull up.
I'm getting permission right now.
So you might remember that there's what is kind of like the brain in the middle of the campus, and then there's the loop road that goes around that brain, and then we were before you several years ago for the 8 buildings that are at the south side of Loop Road. When we were doing that application, that was 100 acres. It was subdivided into 2 lots, with the 8 buildings being on the 60-some-odd acre portion. This proposed building is on that remaining 37 or so acre portion. As you can see on the screen, it's proposed on that purple piece that's there. So it's also in the area of the temporary parking lots that you approved fairly recently in connection with the construction of what we refer to as the PMPD building on Parcel D. So again, property, that second lot of the subdivision, approximately 39 acres. It's on the east side of Loop Road. All of this is in the PED district, and this building would be classified as R&D. It's supporting R&D, and it would allow Regeneron to centralize the existing functions that they have on the campus. So it's not intended, for example, to create any additional traffic or additional trips to the site. Instead of somebody pulling into that loop road and going to, one of the other buildings or what have you for deliveries and other things, they would instead come to this portion of the site. And so those functions would be centralized in that building. So we've got this little PowerPoint for you. I don't want to steal anybody's thunder. I just wanted to give you a brief introduction, and Steve can start and go through it with you.
Sure. Can everyone hear this? All right. Steve Spina with JMC. So just before we go to the next slide, so that where we're proposing tonight is a project on the eastern side of the lot here. So the green is the property line, and this is the eastern portion of the larger site that was on the previous slide. Okay, so now we're kind of zooming in there. This is that, at the top corner here is that new roundabout that was installed by the DOT. There's the bridge that goes over Route 9A here. And then this is that old Sawmill River Road, kind of the rest of it here. There's that new gas station with the Dunkin' Donuts, kind of in this peninsula here. So just to orient the group. And what we're proposing here is a logistics building to house many of the campus's existing functions that are located in several buildings throughout the campus, both North Campus, South Campus, which is shown here in the light tan. So it's a 136,000 square foot building, and it has a loading dock to the south here, and there's associated parking around the building, and there's a proposed driveway from the building down to the rest of the campus, which we'll get into in some other later slides. And a few other things to highlight would be some of the existing recently installed temporary parking lot here will remain. The northern part of it up here would be removed to build this building and its surrounding parking and loading areas. And then just highlighting in the dark green line is the existing town wetland buffer. So we're trying to respect that in terms of the proposed development of impervious area. We do have some disturbance for grading and stormwater in that buffer, which we'll show on some slides moving forward. So I think right now Joe from LJC, the project architect, will take over just to explain some of the functions of the building and show some nice renderings of the project that we're excited about here.
Thanks, Steve. So To give an overview of the function of the building is ancillary use to the research and development function of the rest of campus, and this falls within the zoning ordinance. As Steve said earlier, we're really trying to consolidate a lot of the uses that are already on the existing campus that support the lab spaces. So at Regeneron, a lot of the labs use a lot of glassware, consumables, and they have a lot of equipment. So a lot of these spaces within the building serve those uses on campus. For example, the glassware needs to be washed before lab users can reuse it in experiments and production on campus. So we have spaces for those functions, as well as Regeneron has a lot of different equipment that they use in all their facilities. They like to repair those, keep them functioning for their business. We also are having some logistics space in this building which supports the campus, as well as some storage and office as well. So that's the primary use and function of the building.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, can you define logistics?
Logistics is the operations around the campus. So if a building has mechanical equipment that need to be repaired, Regeneron has staff and contractors that will address different repairs throughout the campus, or they monitor the building management systems. They kind of oversee the operations in general of how everything functions. An example of that would also be there's a shipping receiving function. When Regeneron receives items that need to be distributed through the campus, they'll come to this building and then be redistributed throughout the campus.
My understanding, this is about 250,000 square feet.
It's
136,000
square feet. And we'll get into, I'm going to explain here. So Lot 2 has about 1.7 million square feet. By the zoning ordinance, we're allowed to build 0.3 FAR max. We can actually go up to 0.6 FAR for an R&D use. Our current proposed building is 136,000 square feet, which is 0.078 FAR. So we're well below the maximum kind of base FAR amount with this project.
How many floors is that?
So it's 3 floors plus a penthouse. And if we go to the next slide. So the zoning has a height restriction of 90 feet. This building is 89 feet 6 inches tall.
It's a good thing you didn't go to 90.
Yeah.
6 inches.
The building's 3 occupied floors plus a mechanical penthouse. Parking, we're required to have 202 parking spaces per the building uses, and we're providing 208 currently.
And just wanted to add, the floor-to-floor in this building is a lot taller than you might expect, for example, in a standard office building, and they need that for equipment and being able to move things around.
Yeah, I had to come to terms with the logistics building. I just think of it as a support services building, but logistics sounds so much more impressive. which you would
I
expect
think
in
that's
general.
probably a simplification, but
Yeah, support services. Are there any research labs in this building?
There's a glass wash function.
No, I mean actual research going on.
It's more shops, office space, and some storage as well.
So how do you get the glassware to the research labs? Do you have underground tunnels or things like that?
Maybe they wish for that, but they're actually using some vans, so they'll have sealed carts that their employees will collect the glass. It'll be brought to this building, washed with glass washers, autoclaves. It'll be packaged up in a sterile environment and then delivered back to the individual labs where it's ordered.
Do you need any special equipment for this, or do you have greater than normal water requirements, or any gas or electric requirements that?
We're working through all the utility requirements right now. We've been talking with Con Ed for those requirements, and the conversations are ongoing. We're trying to make the building be all electric as possible. There are some process loads with that glass wash function, but we're trying to be as sustainable as possible by making it using more electricity rather than natural gas.
Well, you used a magic word, sustainable. So are you planning on incorporating sustainable functions,
It's a
whether
lead.
it's solar or?
It's a
Yeah.
LEED silver building.
good.
We're
Okay.
planning to make the roof solar ready, so we're gonna build enough structure to hold those on the roof areas. And then we also are providing EV chargers and trying to just limit our water and use electricity instead of gas as much as possible.
There was a mention of trying to honor the wetlands space. There was kind of a question about that, so I wanted to explore what that meant, trying to honor it.
So we are respecting the wetland buffers, but Steve,
Respecting.
Right. We will need a wetland permit from the planning board as well as a steep slopes permit. Steve can talk a little bit further about it, but there will only be some grading in the wetland buffer.
Correct.
I had a question yesterday. I was at a meeting with the neighborhood, and they were complaining about all the development and the impact it had, not your development, generally, and the impact on flooding in the area. When you do a major, project, how do you sort of address, flooding, say, near the sawmill? How do we address, do you take action steps that would reduce flooding potentials?
Yes, so part of the disturbance to the buffer, the wetland buffer here at this kind of, I guess, middle end of the site, is to increase an existing stormwater pond that we installed as part of the temporary parking lot. And it's working well, but the way that the hydrology of this proposed site is, we're going to direct a little bit more water towards that area. It all still goes to the same location to the west on our campus and eventually to the Sawmill River. It's just going to get there a little differently. So we're extending that stormwater pond immediately in that wetland buffer to hold back additional flows and let them out slowly.
If you're, I'm sorry.
We do have to continue our design. There's soil testing that we need to do. We always try to infiltrate the water if we can. Sometimes it works, sometimes not, especially if you're near a wetland buffer. So we're going to do everything we can to keep the stormwater on the site. Otherwise, it will be held and released slowly, in accordance with the town code, state code, just like we've done on all the other projects on the campus, which, we're proud to say so far with all these, 100-year storms we get every week, there hasn't been any flooding on the site. All the drainage has been doing great, erosion control, knock on wood, so.
I'll do that for you.
Does it sometimes improve surrounding neighborhoods if you're doing like a really great job with, drainage?
Yes.
Does it be positive impacts?
Yes,
elsewhere?
because we typically will go, we'll look at what the existing flows are coming off a site, and then we don't want to meet them, we want to exceed them in terms of holding back a little bit more.
So maybe you could build some other places around the town, so we could solve our flooding
Well, I will
problems.
say the prior major expansion, the 1 million square feet, was significantly over-designed from a stormwater perspective, and that was worked into the seeker process and mandated as condition of approval of the town board. I don't recall exactly what storm you designed to, but it was a 200-year storm. Yeah, so that's
Is that
that's
typical?
unprecedented in the town. I
No,
would
it's not typical at all.
No, I'm talking about for new development. Are we going to
say.
be,
I've never seen a 200-year design for a project until this one.
Speaking of water, you are going to be watching out the glassware, the beakers that you use for experimenting. And how is that water collected, cleaned? Where is that water going? What are you putting in place for that? I'm assuming that you are because you're good citizens, but I'd like you to explain it.
Yeah, definitely. So that cleaning process, nothing will be discharged. That would be our plumbing engineer. We have another firm working on that. They would be doing like a neutralization system before anything's discharged. They're going to follow the building and plumbing code and make sure that any process that's implemented is safe for the environment. on the site and whatever is discharged away from this site.
I'm sort of curious, so since you started, redeveloping the campus, you've already are under construction. How many square feet of buildings have you already done and are working on?
Ted might be in a better position
just curious.
to talk about that, but I do know that the PMPD building that we were before you is well underway. And I think that there are
Yeah,
a couple
we,
of buildings on the South Campus, or have they started yet?
well, we don't have any buildings completed yet, but the Parcel D PMPD building the steel is fully up to the top floor, and they're working on the structure, all the, mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems of that building. There's a daycare facility that's not in Greenberg, across the street in Mount Pleasant. Same situation. It's, steel's built out. They're working on the inside of the building.
Parking structure's constructed.
Yes, good point. The parking structure next to the Parcel D building, which you can see from the roadway, that's up and operational, has a full, certificate of occupancy from the building department. As far as the Loop Road site work is still ongoing in terms of bringing the site to the subgrade. All the utilities, or most of them, are installed around the perimeter. So soon you'll start to see foundations and buildings come out of the ground in the coming months.
I just ask for any future charging stations to make sure you run that by the building department. You're aware?
Yes.
Right, okay.
Have you thought about, first of all, I'm really excited about everything you've done. I think you're a tremendous asset to the town, and, we really appreciate that you're doing so much in the Greenberg portion of the campus. I'm sort of wondering, have you thought about food scrap, recycling for some of the employees, like having a section, because that's sort of taking off all over the country, is food scrap, organic recycling. And I'm sort of wondering if that's something that your company is considering or would consider.
You mean like composting?
Composting your,
Okay, so yes, there are compost locations in some of the loading docks proposed on the Loop Road project. So that is incorporated into some of the programs, not on this project, though.
So it's currently being done.
Sir, you have
I'm
to,
gonna-
you have to
speak
come
into the
up.
microphone.
So there is a current composting program that's in place on Regeneron's campus, and they're currently bringing their compost up north. I forget the name of the town. It's about 30 minutes north. So that is something that will continue and be a standard in the buildings we're developing.
that would be great.
I have a question. So again, I do agree with Supervisor Feiner about all the contribution and investment you have made into the town. I do have a question with all the construction, everything that you have going on. Do you use any minority women-owned businesses or service disabled-owned business when you are giving out your contracts? I know you mentioned an RFP. Is that included in your RFP when you are putting out the bid?
So
I think we'll have to verify that with
Procurement.
Regeneron. I don't think we're sure about that.
Okay. All right. I can send you the question, just to be clear with
Okay.
that.
And we'll find out the answer to that. You know that the project is, the Loop Road project and the PMPD project are all projects that are being supported by the IDA, and they also strongly encourage the MWBE and local hiring, so
That's great.
they've been adhering to those
All right.
requirements.
Perfect, thank you.
I just got a box, in case you wanted to know. It was just for the asylum seekers, some computers that somebody donated, so that's why I walked out.
Very nice.
Okay.
Great, well, again, thank you so much.
Yeah,
anything else?
we have more, if you'd
Oh,
like to
yeah,
see
yeah,
more. If
definitely.
you don't
I
have
just
the
took that.
time,
You
we'll.
can put it back up again. I just took it down, so
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize.
no one's staring at a building when everyone's having a conversation.
Yeah, you guys have to see the good part here. Okay. I'll let Joe take
This
it away.
is a 3D kind of overall, kind of bird's eye view of the project, but it shows you how the building's oriented as it relates to old Sawmill River Road. And kind of, you can see those dashed lines that show the wetland buffers there and the roundabout just beyond the building. If we go to the next page, this is a rendering of the project, looking down from the bridge on 100C. If you were driving towards the roundabout, Regeneron's campus is just kind of beyond the building, down the hill. If we go to the next image, this is a view if you're kind of rounding through that roundabout and coming down Old Sawmill River Road. So what we're doing with the design of this building, because it's pretty tall, we're really trying to break down the scale with some different materials. So the base of the building is going to be precast, similar to other buildings on campus, to give it a nice, solid, durable base. We'll use window wall and curtain wall for the entry and office spaces on top of the building. And then we'll be using formed metal panel for the upper portions of the building, along with some perforated metal panels. So what we're trying to do is make the building feel lighter as it gets taller. And then we're also setting back the penthouse to try to reduce the visual scale of the building. So if we go to the next image. This is a view from the gas station looking at kind of the south portion of the building. And what we're trying to do, if you go to the next image, we've created a screen wall in front of the loading dock that's really serving a couple different purposes. One is to screen the view of that loading dock, so when people are driving by, they're not looking at a bunch of trucks and stuff unloading into the building. It's also a safety mechanism. We don't want people walking on the sidewalk accidentally crossing into the loading dock, because that would be really dangerous with how much activity is going to be occurring there. So we've made that major kind of screen there to help. And then the upper portion of the building, like I said before, gets lighter as it goes up with the metal panel. If we go to the next image, this is the loading dock. So you can see the screen wall on the right that I just pointed out. That's that visual barrier. And then on the left here, we have canopies to help shelter workers at the loading dock and provide the function that Regeneron needs for this project.
Is there added truck traffic along the access from Sawmill River Road, or is that internal, or what?
So Steve can address the specifics, but at least in this space here, so we have a couple of truck types that pull up with vans, and then we have an access road around the building for the fire department as well. But Steve, if you want to.
Yeah, so we anticipate there will be additional truck traffic. Much of it is what already goes onto the campus now, since we're centralizing a lot of the operations. But this building is sized to house the operations needed for the expansion of all the other projects we just described. So there will be extra trucks that would go here rather than going to all the new loading docks throughout the rest of the campus.
But there won't be extra truck traffic per se on Sawmill River Road?
No, there won't be truck traffic that is not already anticipated as a result of the prior approvals.
Right.
So when we got the prior approvals and we studied all of that,
So
This is
the
intended-
traffic study that you had done at that time is applicable still, because you're not increasing that truck
Right.
traffic? Okay.
Right.
Anything else?
You just
We
have some
we'll go through
elevations.
these quickly. Have a couple elevations of the building. This is really showing the materials that I said earlier: precast, window systems, formed metal panels, window wall where we have our office workers to give the workers here a nice views out of the project. These are just the other elevations of the building that are pretty similar. So,
You're not intending on any signage on the building?
so we're studying that a little bit, but if we do implement signage, we're going to be really thoughtful about it. But we haven't worked through the details yet of what Regeneron standards are, where we would want that to be, and so that's to be determined at this point.
All right, so let me just tell you a little pet peeve that I have. We changed our code to allow this zoning, right? There's no zoning like it, but we worked for quite a long time to change it so that you could come in here. And then we go to the groundbreaking, and it's Regeneron at Tarrytown. Tarrytown has no approvals on this project. I understand the post office, but we're trying to brand that Greenberg is doing a lot of good things, but we have Tesla of White Plains, which is walking distance from Town Hall. We have the Madison Square Gardens, which only uses Greenberg in their name, and we appreciate that. But it's troubling, right? You need approvals, you come to Greenberg, unincorporated Greenberg Town Board, to get all your approvals. We work with you, we give you a pilot, we do all these things, and then there's no mention of Greenberg anywhere for Regeneron. And it's reported as Regeneron, and the newspapers always get it wrong, in Tarrytown, right? It's not in Tarrytown.
We will bring
So
that up.
I intend to mention this at every time there's a major project, because branding is important for your company, but also for our town, because people think, oh, we're not doing anything, what are we doing as far as, economic development? And they hear about all these other places that are doing it, but much of it is us. So I'm just putting it out there. I don't like anybody to leave a meeting that I'm at.
Bring that back to them. and,
So even, and I think what ShopRite is Greenberg, Elmsford, or Elmsford, Greenberg, even though it's not in Elmsford. But there's some place that I saw that they did it nice. They put the address on the building, no problem with that, but they attributed it to Greenberg. So if you want to get across there, if you want to put it into your GPS, what's the post office address, put the address on the building. But it would be nice if there was some recognition. We've had this partnership for a very long time now. And I fully appreciated changing the zoning, coming up with a new zone, as a matter of fact, that's never existed before. And then at the groundbreaking, it was Tarrytown. So,
We will be sure
okay,
to bring that back.
okay.
Just to give you a little bit of a summary, so,
Janet?
sorry. I've never been told I've been too quiet before. So just to go back and to summarize, so what we're proposing complies in all respects with zoning. Again, we mentioned that there is some wetland buffer disturbance, but it's just for some grading. We've basically stayed as much as possible outside of that wetland and wetland buffer area, and the disturbance to that buffer is going to be in areas that have been previously disturbed and do not particularly provide much in the way of wetland function. We will also need a tree removal permit from this board, since you are the approving agency. There will also be some minor steep slopes disturbance, for which we will need a slopes permit from the planning board. So the process will be with this board and with the planning board. And I think that that's all we have for you. This, again, this will result in the removal of one of those temporary lots that you previously approved. Some of the parking that is going to be provided for this building will be in the area that the temporary lot was approved. So there will be a portion of that temporary lot that will remain to serve this building.
What's the timeline that you anticipate for the approvals, and when would you anticipate the construction would start?
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Construction, we're trying to start next summer. End of construction would be end of 2025, early 2026 is the goal.
What you're really asking is, when are they coming in for building permits?
Yeah, how do you know?
Yeah.
That would be next spring,
Next spring.
next spring, summer. Yeah.
And after this, what's the next big project in Greenberg?
It's classified.
Good answer, good answer.
This is great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone,
Thank
for
you.
your time.
Looking good.
Thank you very much. So we hope to be on your
Thank you.
agenda on the 11th, I think it is, for purposes of referral out to the planning
Right.
board for its review and recommendation.
Excellent.
And then we would commence also that process with the planning board. We would go through this with them and also make our applications to them for the wetland and slopes permits. And then we would come back to you after that.
Terrific.
Great.
So thank you for
Thank you.
being part of Greenberg, and we really appreciate your company. And every time I'm looking at the proposed budget, I'm saying, thank God we have Regeneron.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
have a
you,
good
everyone.
evening.